Welcome to the VIP podcast. I am your host, Heath Sheeran. I'll be joined momentarily by my co-host, Sid Rowe, on a phenomenal podcast. And let me tell you a little bit about this one, just to level set before we get started. This episode is coming at you from a webinar several months back that we did. We talked all things ChatGPT. And Sid gets into her top ways that agencies are using ChatGPT, unique ways, common ways, all the above. There's also an ebook. Make sure that you check that out as well. That goes along with it. It's a great resource that we put together for you. Guys, I'm going to get out of the way here shortly. But before I do, I want you to know that we've got some other unique content coming out and some really fun stuff that we're doing right now. So I'd love for you to smash the subscribe button. We want to hear from you. We want to make sure you don't miss anything. You're our VIP, and we want to make sure that we take care of you. Guys, I'm going to get out of the way here. Let's go.
A little legal text. I am not allowed to recommend that anybody on this webinar use ChatGPT. I need you guys to hear that loud and clear. I cannot tell you that you should use it. I do not recommend that you use it. However, what I am going to show you is how agencies that we have interviewed across the country are using it. We're going to give you a sneak peek on the webinar. And then there's actually going to be an ebook that follows up this webinar that goes into a little more detail and gives you some more examples. So we don't have time to cover everything today, but we're going to get as far as we can. And really, we just want you guys to come out a little more confident and comfortable. So agenda for today, we'll do a real quick high level on what ChatGPT is. We're going to talk about a prompt. Prompt is your secret weapon for ChatGPT. Learning how to prompt is really helpful from what we've seen across the industry with agencies using ChatGPT. We'll talk about some risks, and then we're going to show you some really interesting and innovative ways agencies are using the platform, and then we'll have extra time for Q&A at the end as well. All right, so what is ChatGPT? First of all, artificial intelligence is not new. This has been around for almost a decade at this point. And the idea of artificial intelligence is that we take a massive data set, right? We clean it up to the highest accuracy that we can get. We stack learning models on top of it, and then we use that data to predict actions or insights. And so the input is data and the output is data. And we're using it in a predictive fashion, right? Generative AI is a subset, a subcategory of artificial intelligence. And it's, from a linear perspective, it's farther along the evolutionary scale than what I just described as predictive artificial intelligence is, right? And so it's really the most intelligent artificial intelligence. The biggest difference in terms of a real-world example between these two types of AI are this. Let's say that you're playing a game of chess and you're playing against traditional AI. The person, the AI, that's on the other side of the table playing you can only act off of a prescribed set of rules. Now, it can choose, it can make decisions based off of, it's reacting to you, right? So you'll make a move and then it's analyzing every possibility within its world of possibilities, and then it's making an action based on a prescribed set of rules. Generative AI, right? So it's kind of like a master strategist. Generative AI is like sitting down with a friend and saying, once upon a time in a galaxy far, far away, ... And then that friend, without any prescribed context or set of rules, starts creating the rest of the story. So the biggest difference between these two is AI is really pattern recognition, and generative AI is pattern creation. So it is bringing something new to the table, and with the updated forms of OpenAI, ChatGPT, and other AI that we're seeing today, we're actually seeing that the new that it's bringing to the table in many different forms. It's not just insights, it's not data, it's also visuals, it's also audio, it's conversation, and so the world of output, the file types or forms of output has expanded, and that's continuing to grow. We were just talking before we started this webinar about how OpenAI had a huge announcement on Monday this week, and they're essentially bringing some of their paid functionality down into the free version, which is really interesting because it means that their paid version is evolving and innovating and getting better. In their newer paid version, they've released custom GBTs. So imagine being able to go out and build a personalized ChatGPT, right? Instead of everybody's going to talk to Jim, right? ChatGPT Jim, it's the same AI, same ChatGPT that everybody's talking to. Imagine now you can talk to your own personalized ChatGPT, right? One that's an expert in insurance, one that's an expert in mixology, one that's an expert in something else. There's also a new voice feature that rivals Siri and some other stuff. So this thing just continued. The pace at which it's evolving is pretty impressive. So that is what, and again, I am no AI expert, but at a very high level, that's really the difference between these two technologies. Now, from a business standpoint, right, I think a lot of people want to know, well, where are we in its adoption, right? How quickly is the world embracing this new technology? When it was first launched in November of 2022, people adopted it faster than any technology we've seen. Like Instagram, you can see down at the bottom, reached 1 million followers in 2.5 months. ChatGPT, and that was the fastest. That was the fastest pace at which any piece of technology had been adopted. ChatGPT took 5 days to get to 1 million people. So that pace of adoption was insane. But if you look at where we are now, over on the left, you'll see a chart that shows the visits to the platform. So this isn't profiles. We were looking at profiles before. This is people coming to the site and actually using it, which is more interesting to me than because you can subscribe to it and then never actually use it, right? You saw a massive jump between November 2022 and March 2023. And then for the last year, it's really plateaued, right? It's really kind of plateaued. You'll also see over on the left-hand side, there was a study done that shows that polled people on, whether they had used it or not, and you see a large group of people, that have seen it used or have heard about it, but haven't actually used it themselves. I think what we're going to see over the next year or two is the shiny object syndrome is over, right? That sprint to what is this thing and what does it do, right? The line outside the iPhone door, that's over. We're now in a different phase of ChatGPT's evolution where people are looking for it from a business perspective and they want to know how it's going to, the value that it's bringing to them. It's not just, well, I'm using it because it's cool to use. What does it do for me every day? And I think what we're going to see is this number right here move up into this red box, right? So I think they've definitely primed the pumps, and now we've got to get.
Let me jump in here for just a second, if you don't mind. A couple of things have come through. I know we got a lot to cover, so I just want to make sure I hit this because 3 or 4 people have said something.
Yeah.
Yes, we know we're getting a little echo on your audio, so if you could speak a little closer to the laptop. But full transparency, she just flew in literally an hour ago from being out of town at a conference or an event. And so she hadn't had a chance to set up her mics and everything right now. So please bear with us on that. But she's going to try to speak as clearly as she can into there. We do see it, Mark. Thank you, Tammy, for those that brought it up. Hopefully it's not too distracting. You'll still be able to pay attention. I also had a comment that mine was a little cracky earlier too. Hopefully we've got all that fixed. But I just wanted to let you know that there has been a few comments on that. So maybe you could, speak a little bit more into the mic. Literally she just flew in from being out of town. So she hadn't had a whole lot of chance to. She had a little delay, I think, in her flights.
Yeah, and I apologize for the audio. I'll speak up a little bit more. And to Nelson, we're getting into why you would use ChatGPT in just a sec. Hang tight. So for those of you who are interested in how is the technology behind ChatGPT, which is generative AI, how is that making its way into insurance outside of just ChatGPT? We're actually seeing standalone insurtech solutions start to bubble up. And these solutions are actually leveraging the same technology that ChatGPT is using, and they're creating solutions for agencies. That, for example, with Gale, it's essentially an insurance agent that it's like a robot, right? That can handle calls and have very high level insurance discussions, collect information, and then be a pass off to an actual insurance agent. Patra is a policy checking solution, so that you can upload 2 policies and ask it to compare them. And then Total CSR is more of an internal Siri-like knowledge center. So there's a lot happening in the insurance world around ChatGPT from a tech perspective as well. All right, let's get into what a prompt is. So prompts are very similar to a search, a Google search, right? The difference is the relationship that you have with ChatGPT through a prompt is much more human-like than Google search. So with search, I'm going to ask it a question, and then it's going to give me a list of. It's going to go out into the information universe, the library of the internet, and then say, "Here's 6 things that you should read about that question that you asked." ChatGPT is it's different, right? I'm gonna talk to it like I talk to a human. And let me give you a quick example of what that might look like. When I first started using ChatGPT, I started prompting it like the prompt on the left. Hey, create an article for me on LinkedIn automation. What I realized is if I gave ChatGPT more context, more information, if I treated it like I'm really having a conversation with a person, it actually gives me a better answer, a better output. So if you take a look at the prompt on the right, it's the same prompt, but with more context. Hey, I run a LinkedIn marketing and outreach agency targeting funded startups. I want you to create a sales proposal focusing on their specific needs and pain points for lead gen. But give me the outline first. Don't create the full article, and focus on their objectives and how to overcome them. So that's my first prompt, and it's going to give me an answer back, right?
One of the things that I would add in there really quick is, again, for those, I've had some people already asking questions that haven't used it before or new to it. It's not like Google. When you Google, it's more of a keyword search. So if you just hit the right keyword in there, Google will pick it up and it'll send you articles or send you places. It'll give you all the information you need. And, I like to think of myself as like a Google ninja. I could probably type in, and get a search with a matter of 2 words. But, with ChatGPT, as she mentioned here, it's more of a conversational thing. You need to be a lot more clear, a lot more specific, kind of like talking to your kids. If you're not clear and specific with them, they're going to go off and do their own thing and be like, well, you didn't tell me, Dad. Similar thing here. Sorry, that's the dad speak coming out. But hopefully that made sense. But yeah, don't treat it like a Google search.
Yep. And multiple prompts is also
yes
the gold, right? So it's going to give you something back. Don't be afraid to say, hey, that's not what I wanted. I need you to do it this way. If it gives you an outline and it's 500 words and you needed it to be 200 words, you just say, hey, I need that outline in 250 words. And it'll give it to you.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And thanks, Renee and Carlos, that like the dad talk. I appreciate that. No, another thing about this is when you're doing prompts, the next thing you type in, not anything like Google, but it'll follow the previous prompt. You don't have to reset. Like with Google, you got to reset. With this, you can just say, like, if you ask this question here, focus on their judge how to overcome them, and it gives you an answer, and you can say, okay, now give me some more objections and more overcome, ways to overcome. Or how about a different sales proposal, from the first one? It'll just follow straight through that, and you don't have to reset. Yep. That's a really cool thing about ChatGPT.
Yep.
And again, we're not recommending. We're just saying, if you were to use it, this is a cool thing to do.
Yes. The difference between, so one other thing that it can do, and we'll see this play out actually in one of the ways that an insurance agent told us they were using ChatGPT, which is fascinating to me. But you can have it speak in certain voices. So
yes.
I was on an AI panel yesterday in New York, and I asked it, hey, tell me the difference between generative AI and AI, but please speak in AI hot girl voice. And you can see in the way that it's responding that it sounds almost like, like one of those TV shows for the people on the TV shows. So, you can kind of play with it from a voice perspective. And what we're seeing, I pulled up Gale earlier, which was one of the InsurTech solutions that leverages the same tech. They've now launched custom voices. So, for example, my dad owns an insurance agency. He found out about Gale. He came to me and he said, so could I have this Gale thing recorded in my voice? And then I can set up automations through Agency Zoom where it will send out a request to pay a bill, like somebody who's late to pay a bill. So then my dad calls them and says, hey, notice that this is Greg's AI bot, notice you haven't paid the bill. And it sounds just like him on the call. It auto dials, he doesn't do a thing, and it's all programmed. So, it's very customizable from that perspective.
It is very customizable. You can customize your own voice. Or one of the things that I've, seen done in the past, and I've even done in my own searches as I was playing with it, is you can say, give me an answer from a female perspective, or from a male perspective, or from a millennial, or from a Gen Alpha, or a 44-year-old dad with gray hair raising 3 kids, trying not to strangle them every day. And it'll give you the answer, whatever that may be. Hashtag dad talk. So there's different ways that you can use the voices. And, if your audience, or your clients are of a certain age bracket, you could be able to say, hey, spec this from an age demographic of 35 to 50-year-old, whatever it might be, or for truck drivers, if you're a trucking agency, or for business owners, whatever it might be. You can customize that all the way down as far as you want to.
Renee just nailed it. My prompt starts with act as a CPCU expert in.
Nice.
Well done.
That is well done for sure.
Yes.
Or you could say it in a casual tone, and it would break it down. So.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk risks really quick, and then we'll get into use cases. So, just because we're all insurance agents here, we want to cover the risks. Number one, and probably most important, this thing does not always give you accurate answers. Let me give you a quick story. There was a case that was brought last year. Essentially, a lawyer had gone to ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT to cite case law that would help this lawyer in this case that he was fighting. And it was against an airline. I think his client was trying to get some sort of reimbursement for a delayed flight. So ChatGPT did exactly what he said, surfaced case law. He brought that case law into court. He used that case law in his case. Opposing counsel went to LexisNexis, which is like the Google of the legal world, did not find this case law, could not find it, realized that it didn't exist, and then essentially brought a case against this lawyer for using ChatGPT and citing fake case law in the courtroom. So, and that has created a world of hurt for this person. So, they didn't know that it was possible for this thing to give inaccurate answers. Now, there have been some studies that have been done from different organizations trying to determine the accuracy rate. And what I've seen over the last year is that this 3% number is pretty standard. There are some studies that have shown like 20-25% of the time it's inaccurate. But those are like outlier studies. For the most part, I've seen the 3%. So just remember that you've got to fact check things, and it does essentially hallucinate is what this is called. Okay, data privacy. If any of you have seen Westworld, you know this picture. It's Rehoboam, which is this essentially brain of the future, where all this data from all around the world is collected into one database, and it's used to power all these systems in Westworld. Very similarly, ChatGPT is working off of a database, and you have to remember that when you put data into that database, someone else can then access it. It's available publicly. So be careful if you put client data in there, business information in there, especially data from other people that you're stewarding. You have a very high threshold of responsibility to keep that data safe and secure. And so, we can talk about ways that I've seen agencies scrub things, and so you can kind of get to where you want to go, but without sacrificing security and safety.
Yeah, we did a webinar not too long ago with CJ, who he talked about. He didn't use names or anything, but he protected his clients by using policy numbers instead of first and last name, which I thought was brilliant. And so he took a spreadsheet for his accounting. That's a whole nother thing. We could probably, send you that webinar if you missed that one, but or you can go on our website and probably find it. But anyway, that was a really cool way of protecting his clients' data.
Yeah, I love it. Bias is another issue that's come up. So you have to remember that this thing is working off of a data set that works off of, like, all of us are biased, right, in our everyday lives. And so when it's surfacing information or answers or creating new things, it's doing so off of a biased data set. And there have been studies that have been done to kind of show how it's opinionated or maybe sways in certain directions on certain topics, which is very interesting. So just know that if you're asking it for political advice or business advice or stock market advice or something like that. Intellectual property. Another quick story. Last year, there was an employee of a technology company that wanted to leverage ChatGPT to help them identify where in their code, because they were a developer, where in their code they had errors and bugs and issues. So they took the code from from the system, the proprietary system they were building it in. They copied it, they put it in ChatGPT. They said, hey, here's some code, find the bugs, errors, and fixes, show me where they are, give me an outline, and it did exactly that. Well, come to find out, a competitor was using ChatGPT and found this code, and now there became an intellectual property lawsuit, right? If this other competitor found the code in this system, don't they have a right to it, and how does that all work? So there has been new case law that's arisen, and since that was last year. We've seen Microsoft and Google come up with what's called copyright shield, where depending on the issue, they will actually protect information that's put in, and even go so far as to pay for damages. And so ChatGPT seems to be following in their footsteps on that. I'm assuming the companies are doing that because there is such a high, I think they are taking more responsibility, I would say, because they realize this is a huge issue, which is great. But, we have yet to kind of see how this all shakes out over the next year, 2 years, 3 years. So just know that. Interesting story from Vertafore, actually. We had a scam happen where, in our HR process, we were hiring people, and someone faked our HR department and called the people who we wanted to hire and said, hey, you've been hired, send me your social security number. And you got to imagine that as a someone who is applying for a job and just got this great news that, hey, wow, I was hired. There's this emotional reaction, this emotional response. You're not really thinking clearly. You're not using logic. Oh yeah, okay, sure, here we go. Let's do the next step, right? And so there's some issues around that. So, be careful of cyber fraud risks. There's more that arise every day. Two pictures. This was a real thing that happened to me. I was on LinkedIn and I did a double take. I thought, I don't know if I've ever seen Joe Biden and Donald Trump holding a baby monkey together. That seems crazy. And once I did the double take, I realized that the person who had posted these pictures was actually had actually said, "Hey, I made these on Dolly, which is the visual version of ChatGPT. It's also made by OpenAI, and I mean they look real. I don't know if you guys can see these clearly, but I would not have thought that a computer created these photos. And so, there's from a reputational harm standpoint, there's a lot to be discussed. So, all of this, how this all works in from an E&O perspective and an insurance perspective, is kind of yet to be seen. But I think there's some unintended consequences to such a powerful tool that it'll be interesting to see how they fake out here. All right, Heath, should we get into insurance? We're at the halfway mark. I think we've set them up pretty well.
Yes, I think you did a great job of that too. Before we do, I'm going to launch a quick poll question of how do you feel about, after you've seen the warnings and you've seen the other things, how do you feel about generative AI or AI in general? I just want to see where we're at in general. Oh, gosh, it's crazy to see. Guys, thank you so much for your participation, hanging out with us.
Amazing.
Sid and I obviously we love people and we love the insurance industry, but we love you guys. And so seeing this many people involved and this many people answering, it's ridiculous. We almost broke the webinar, Sid. I'm glad we didn't, because now we got people to hang out with.
Yep.
So we got quite a few people. I'll show you the results here in a minute. They're saying they're interested, but haven't played a whole lot. And there's a good percentage, almost a fourth of people saying they're a little scared of it.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting, which is not surprising necessarily.
I think it's, that's a healthy fear, right? And fear's a motivator. So that's not a bad thing. That sometimes I'll think about Andrew says, don't be scared, embrace it.
Right?
Yes. So yeah, I mean, healthy fear is good, I'd say, but just make sure you know what you're actually afraid of. Sometimes we're afraid of things we don't actually understand our own fear, and the only way you'll really know is by getting involved and becoming engaged, and as Andrew said, embracing it in a way. And sometimes that means you realize there aren't actually things that you thought right. They were scary, and they aren't. And for those who are interested but haven't played with it too much, I think those are the guys and ladies we want to talk to today. And then, of course, we have our love it, use it every day. Heck yeah.
Yep. Real quick, before we move on, Ivan, I see your question. If you're using 3.5, I am too right now. They just announced the free version of 4.0 like yesterday. So it's like brand new. So you probably are missing a lot, but not everybody's got a chance to. It's actually supposed to be better than the 4.0 turbo that people are paying for in a lot of ways. So I think there's probably a way you could upgrade it. So you'd have to check that out. And then Dennis, I see your question of how is Vertafore using AI and Benefit Point? I'm not sure to answer that question. Sid might have the answer. I know we're using it with Agency Zoom and some of our other products, but I don't know about Benefit Point yet. So I could get with product owners and get back to you on that. If you wanted to throw your email address in the chat, I can try to follow up with you. I'll write it down, see if I can get back to you. Sid, do you know the answer to that at all? Or you want to move on?
Yeah, we have, and Dee Smith, I believe, is on this webinar. So Dee, if you want
to jump in the chat, yeah.
Jump in the chat. My understanding of AI and Benefit Point is it's primarily focused on the data visualization and predictive intelligence piece. So for those that use, I believe QuickSight is the not the reporting tool, but the data visualization tool. When it's powered by RiskMatch, which is our data engine, our it's got predictive intelligence and all different, we go through your data, we clean it up. That's more where it's focused. We haven't, from a benefit point perspective specifically, we haven't gotten into like workflows and that kind of thing. But we are seeing our developers and product teams inject AI into some other products at Vertafore, which we'll talk about at the end. So, okay, great. One thing I will point out is that no one in that poll said it's just a phase and will die out over time. That is
I kind of put there just to see, but yeah, I'm glad nobody thought that.
Well, but I think that goes to show that it's here and it's here to stay. So
yeah, yep.
All right. Okay.
We got a lot to cover.
So for those of you who have played with ChatGPT before, you're probably already using it in this way, but it does help write marketing and sales emails, and I would say even blogs. I actually sat next to an agent yesterday who told me that he created a self-perpetuating blog or a self-posting blog GPT off of ChatGPT. But essentially, and now this guy had also had some programming experience, but he had programmed ChatGPT to, when he entered a topic like restaurant insurance in Syracuse, New York, write me a blog on restaurant insurance in Syracuse, New York. It would actually write the whole blog. He could prompt it, and then it would auto post on his website. And he had it set up where it would, properly optimize with specific keywords for Google and some other things. So that was a really mind-blowing example. In terms of everyday usage, I would say this is probably the most common. Some prompts that we've seen are something like this, right? I'm an insurance agent. Again, who are you? Who is the audience for this answer, this email that we want ChatGPT to give us? Who needs to send a restaurant lead, right? A lead, a prospect, not a client. And specifically what type of lead? A follow-up email. So it's an email. What kind of email is it? After meeting with them at a business event. And I could even give it more information, like the business event name was, Big Eye, New York. And so it can sort of use that information as it writes the email. Now, it may give me something that I don't love. Maybe the email's too long. Maybe I don't like the title of the email. And so I might chat back and forth with it a few times to get that email to a place that I feel really confident with. And then I can take that email and, what we recommend, we don't recommend, we just say, we've seen people do this.
She said that.
People will take those emails and then they'll put them into automation inside of Agency Zoom. And you'll see actually towards the end that we're going to start to bring these two worlds a little closer together so they're not two different platforms. You're actually in Agency Zoom using ChatGPT doing this, but not quite there yet. So another prompt we've seen, I'm an insurance agent who needs to explain what a hard market is to my clients and what to expect because of this. So, this is a hard thing to explain to people, right? It's kind of an emotional topic. Sometimes it's easier to start with a script and riff from there as opposed to start with a blank slate. Keith, anything to add on that?
No, I think you're nailing it. I think there's a lot of different ways, and I've got a poll in here a little bit later. I want to hear some other ways, but yeah, I think that's a good way of doing it. I think once you can connect that, then not only can you get your funnel, activated and going, now you've got it just being generated and automated by AI. It's going to be amazing. Again, I had someone in the question answer make a comment of, ChatGPT will not replace your sales team or your anybody. And we're not saying that by any means. Thank you for saying that, anonymous user. But we're not trying to say that we want you to replace your staff. We think this is a way to aid your staff. This is a way to help your team to be that much faster, that much better, that much more informed, that much more equipped.
Yes.
So they can do things that they want to do, things that they want to focus on, and not, some of the tasks that they have to. This is just a way to help, not replace. Let me go ahead and say that. We're not here to replace.
Yeah. And Lauren just asked, how do I get to it? Let me go ahead real quick.
OpenAI.com, I believe.
Yep. So let's see.
If you were to go to it, we're not recommending, but if you were to go to it, openai.com, I do believe.
Yeah. So Lauren, you have to go to openai.com and you have to create a profile. And then so you can see up in this top right-hand corner, I've got ChatGPT pulled up. Up in this top right-hand corner, you can see I have a little icon that represents my profile. So everyone has to have a profile to access ChatGPT. That's different than Google, because Google I can go to without a profile. It's free. Now, what's really crazy is this update actually made this more Google-like, in my opinion, than it was before. But you have your chat bar, right, and some sort of recommendations. And then, once you've got your profile, you can just go to chatgpt.com and access it. I just have the free version, but you can upgrade to other versions, ChatGPT 4 and whatnot. And so, and it's simple as taking that prompt and putting it into, message ChatGPT and then kind of going back and forth. We have
and a couple other things, Greg, I see you. So what ChatGPT, again, it's generative AI. It is generating off of, if it's on the internet or the interwebs, as us old people say, if it's on the interwebs somewhere out there, that's where it's searching. That's the database it's going to. So if it has a question and you can find an answer out there, then it's probably going to find. If not, it may hallucinate and just give you an answer. So you got to be careful of that too. But again, I don't know. You'd have to just play around with it to see. He gave some examples of ideas there. I don't know, but if it's on the internet, I'm sure they can find it and give you an answer, or she, whatever you call your ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Mine's a girl in my head.
Okay. All right.
Women are smarter than me.
I needed to update the title. This is actually ChatGPT helped an agency create a marketing campaign. So there were two tools that this agent used. He used ChatGPT. He also used Dolly, which is another program that's like ChatGPT that was created by OpenAI, and it works very similarly. You can subscribe for free and essentially prompt Dolly. When you prompt Dolly, it will give you images back as opposed to text. So ChatGPT is text and Dolly is visuals. Over on the right, you can see some of the visuals that Dolly has created. And I don't know where the Joe Biden and Donald Trump images came from, but something like a Dolly would have created.
Midjourney or something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so how did he create this marketing campaign? So this was back when COVID was, obviously people were kind of figuring out, okay, do we come back to work and how do we come back to work and what does this look like? And so he wanted to create a campaign that helped his businesses wrestle with this challenge and use it as a marketing campaign, which was brilliant. So he leveraged ChatGPT to create a series of emails that helped businesses kind of work through this challenge. And then he actually uploaded that copy to Dolly and then asked Dolly to turn it into like a children's book. And then he took the children's book and he brought it to like dentist offices and areas where families would be sitting in waiting rooms and ask them, can I give these books to you guys for free? And his logo was all over it. And so his thought was like, I'm going to give it to the kid will take it home, and then maybe they'll talk to their parents about it. So that was a little bit of a stretch for me, but it seemed to work for him. He didn't share numbers with me on the success of the marketing campaign, but thought it was kind of a creative way to leverage the two systems. Okay, 3, ChatGPT helps create a producer game plan. So a lot of times, new producers come in, they want to find a niche, and they have a hard time with, okay, well, where do I start with this niche? Not just in terms of getting the leads, but how do I have conversations with a contractor? What do I talk to them about? What are the right challenges that they're facing? And so essentially this agency owner helped his producers target niches by creating a producer game plan after he had figured out which niche they wanted to go after. And these were the topics that he asked ChatGPT to cover in the producer game plan. He printed it all out, put it into a binder, gave it to the producer and said, like, this is what you need to know to go after that niche, go get them. And, it seemed to give his producers a lot of confidence. So I thought that was kind of an interesting.
Yeah, on that same note, one of the ways that I use it, and the way I do my prompts on that is just to say, in that scenario, if I was going to build a niche in trucking, I might just say, hey, where would I find, a list of truckers? What's important to truckers? And just kind of ask it questions, and it gives me the answers I'm looking for. What are some of their pain points? What is this or that? And just build the pipeline of the questions in there. And then you could say at the end, ask the question of, could you build me a game plan for insurance agent to begin targeting this as a niche, whatever it might be. And then it'll take all the information it gave you above and then spit out what you want. So there's different ways, and you can say build it for it, or you can just get the information and then say build it. So there's different ways you can do it, but I think this is definitely a strong way people are using it right now.
Someone just asked real quick in the chat, wondering about the compliance and legalities of using it. So compliance is relevant, specific to your business, right? The idea of compliant, there's no like social compliance that exists. There's, Roper, for example, is the company that owns Vertafore, and so we have certain boundaries that we can't cross with it, both from a marketing perspective and as we use it internally. And those evolve, right? I mean, this is an evolving technology, and so those boundaries sort of move and change as the technology changes, and we learn how courts are deciding on case law and how things are being used and what the unintended consequences are. So for that person asking, I would say go to your business owner and ask them about that compliance piece. From a legal perspective, we went through some of the legal issues that could arise using it. Most of them are around data privacy and confidentiality. But do your research, do your due diligence, absolutely, before using it. Okay. Now this was and this goes back to the voices, right? It can kind of, and
yes,
it sort of highlighting this as well. One of the interesting ways we've seen this being used is almost like a best friend, right? Like, hey, I'm going into an important business meeting. I just need to almost run through this meeting with somebody before I walk into it. Heath and I ran through this presentation before we got on live, right? I could do the same thing with ChatGPT, but for, a meeting. And so these are interesting prompts, right? Because the first one is, hey, I'm an insurance agent. What types of questions should I ask the president and IT person, so specifying rules, of a restaurant chain during an initial discovery meeting for insurance? So being really specific, who I'm talking to, what kind of meeting this is, who the meeting is with. Now, what's also interesting is this person told me, but I reversed that as well. And this is where most people, they miss this part, right? Hey, I'm an insurance agent. What types of questions would the president and IT person of a restaurant chain ask me during an initial discovery meeting for insurance? I thought that was really interesting. So to put ChatGPT in the driver's seat and say, hey, if you're in this meeting with me, what are you going to ask me? And just kind of see what it comes up with. So it's a great way to prep for meetings and get ready. Okay, marketing assets from a presentation. One agency went and did essentially like a presentation to a company about health insurance and how it works. And the company was not a client, so this was a prospective situation. They didn't want to just do the presentation and then walk out the doors and say, okay, good luck, and I'll never talk to you again. So they took this presentation, they actually uploaded it as a PowerPoint to ChatGPT, and then they asked ChatGPT to create marketing assets from it. And the prompts are not here, but they were very specific in terms of hey, I need a set of 6 emails, I need an ebook, whatever it might be. They then went to Dolly to create images that go along with that. So they could put the images in the emails and put the images in the ebook. And then they uploaded everything to their insurance CRM. And then they dripped this out to that group of people they were in the presentation with. And so that gave there was a stream of content that went out that nurtured these people, which is super smart. So just one use case, but again, you can kind of use these ideas in other scenarios as well. One thing I'll say about the uploading, I believe that you can now upload files in ChatGPT 3.5. However, or I guess now 4.0. However, the older version of ChatGPT, before this announcement just came out, you had to actually upgrade to the paid version to get access to uploading files. So that's just something to be aware of if you want to use it for that purpose. Okay, we got 2 more examples, and then we can go through some questions here. One agent asked ChatGPT to help create a service performance scorecard, which I thought was very interesting. Here are some of the prompts that the agent asked ChatGPT. Hey, what are the KPIs I should be looking for? A commercial account manager. Can you please place this into a scorecard format that has room for notes to be scored 1 to 5? Can you create it in landscape format so that I can print it as a PDF and use it in an employee review process? So kind of worked with ChatGPT to create this scorecard, then delivered the scorecards to his team in January of this year, and he's checking in quarterly to see how things are rolling. And that was an effort to try and create a little more accountability and transparency with the service team. So just kind of an interesting way to leverage it. This one came up recently as well. We had a whole webinar actually about this use case. Heath, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. So again, going back to what we talked about earlier, instead of, again, he put the names on your Dwight Schrute, Jen Halpert. Hey, put in the chat if you know where that reference is coming from. It's an easy one. So lay up here. But anyway, so there's a TV show that he used just as there we go. Some people already The Office. Okay. So, but he's not going to use that when he puts it into his ChatGPT. He used the prompt of putting the policy number, the commission amounts, and then he was able to reconcile how much to pay, how much they've been paid, what that looks like. And, CJ said, that would take him, hours, sometimes days to reconcile those, reports. And he's able to do it in like a lot less time. I don't know the exact time. I don't want to pinpoint me down on something like that, but just a way to help with those commissions. I would never thought you could use ChatGPT or any kind of AI to help with commissions. I wish I had that when I owned my agency. It would have made things a lot easier for me as well. So, if you have any other questions on that, we can, send you the link to that webinar and you can see the entire breakdown of how he does it.
Yep.
He also came and spoke at our event, NetView's Accelerate event, about the same thing.
Yep. Wonderful. Okay. So those were 7 just interesting ways people are using it. We actually have an ebook that'll be coming out to everyone after this webinar. And we go through 12 examples. So there's even more ways that agents are using this thing.
Yep.
That just off the wall, interesting, creative stuff. So look out for that ebook when it comes out. In terms of where Vertafore is leading with artificial intelligence today, there are 3 areas we're focused on. AI-powered workflows, which means we're going to inject real-time insights into the sales and service workflow. Think cross-sell opportunities that are surfaced at the right time for your salespeople. Think renewals that are surfaced in the service workflow as opposed to just starting at A, right? Let's be a little more intelligent with how we attack a list of cross-sell opportunities or renewal responsibilities. The second is smart search. So, a lot of in a service person's, a CSR account manager's day, a lot of it is searching for information, finding information in not just one, but multiple databases. So, we want to bring that information together. We want to give you a search bar that allows you to intelligently surface the right information that you're looking for. So that's another thing we're working on. And then something that's really exciting is Smart CRM. So Agency Zoom, as you all know it today, is going to evolve. One way in which it'll do that is by bringing ChatGPT functionality into that area where you can create emails. So, we're helping you create those emails, helping you create text, etc., emails, etc., fixing grammar and typos and that sort of thing. The other, which is really interesting that we're working on, is workflow intelligence. So how can we help you create better automations instead of having to go out and create these from scratch yourself? Now, we do provide like a templated, there's some templates we provide in terms of automations, but you may want to tweak that depending on your style or the way you run your business or the audience that you're marketing to, selling to. So, having a tool in there that allows you to handle that with in an intelligent way is where we're headed. So these are all things that are coming out this year. Thank you guys so much.
Dude, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us.
It was really great to meet all of you. Great to see the chat blow up. Heath, you're amazing.
No, you are.
Man. Always good to hang with you.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did. And maybe you got some wheels turning in your head and some ways that you can improve your agency using ChatGPT. Maybe you learned something there about the security there. Maybe you learned something about the prompts. Maybe you just got some good ideas that you could implement in your agency. That's our hopes with all of these podcasts and webinars and content that we put out. We really hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us.
Tortured mind.